The Ouka series is in a genre of what I'll delicately refer to as esoteric anime games. There are many like it, mostly in rpgmaker, but I think this series in particular doesn't get the recognition it deserves. It does a lot right. The first game was never ported to Steam, so we'll just be checking out the more polarizing sequel. Let's get into it. The game starts with a text crawl that gives us a quick rundown, in case we haven't played the first one, which you probably haven't. Ouka is a pretty famous student around town, well known for her ability to straighten out a school's problems. And by that they mean she just beats up problem students. She also has a friend named Senka, and together they formed the Committee, an organization that goes from school to school, subduing troublesome delinquents. I guess this means they don't attend any classes themselves, because they seem to just leave the school once they're done. Their latest job? Do they get paid for this? It's never actually said. It's not like they just randomly show up to these things. They get requests from these schools to help. Maybe dispensing justice is reward enough. In any case, their services have been requested at Danson, a school that up until very recently was an all-boys institute. Ouka arrives on the bus and she heads to the sports hall to introduce herself. It seems to be going pretty well until one of the delinquents, named Porkbelly, busts in, and he is in peak form. It seems he's not too happy about Ouka being brought on to rein him and his boys in. It's clear he's looking for a fight. This is the first combat encounter, and by design it's a joke, because Ouka starts at max level with all the skills. Just look at this starting skills menu, dude. Well, I peruse through it and spot an ability that increases attack power at the cost of a chunk of health. I employ some advanced tactics and spam that ability. Just 2 uses and Ouka is down. Nothing. Plus no save. So I gotta start a new game again, I guess. All right, we're back at the fight, and Ouka is so OP that he goes down in 1 hit. Not even a skill, just a standard attack. Defeat the minions too, and that... For some reason, certain sound effects are much louder than everything else. I lowered that quite a bit for you. You're welcome. After defeating Porkbelly, Ouka demands to see their boss, to which he explains that he is the boss. Grim. He handles the defeat pretty gracefully and retreats for now. Afterwards, Ouka is called to the principal's office, where he explains the circumstances in a bit more detail. Apparently, the students were all very well behaved until the change to co-ed. The boys previously had had no real interaction with girls, so this school change ended up causing a lot of chaos. Some of the students were particularly against this policy and formed a faction that took over the old school building in protest. Also, apparently they found an ancient scroll in that building that lets them mind control people. Okay. You know, there's plenty of contemporary ways for getting to brainwashing content. I don't know why they felt the need to jump to ancient scroll magic for this. Just then, Senka walks in, who was also deployed to this school. She was brought in by the principal to help ease the troubled male-female interactions. She'll be stationed in the principal's office to manage that, while Ouka deals with the delinquent problem. She's in good hands. And with that, we're finally allowed to free roam around the school. We need to deal with the delinquents eventually, but getting to know the student body is first on the list. The school isn't terribly big. It's 12 small areas connected by a very compact overworld. Let's head to the school entrance first. There we find the principal doing inspections as the students enter. This is the introduction to one of the game's main collectibles. Hidden around the school, you can find delicate apparel, which all have a unique look on Ouka. You're then given a side task of talking to the principal, with each one equipped for unique dialogue. Next, we'll check out the courtyard. There seems to be a mischievous boy named Shogo messing with students. He asks Ouka to play with him, but when she agrees, he plays a prank on her using a fishing line and scampers off. We have to catch him to get Ouka out of this jam, but he's quite quick. The best method is to corner him like a rat so he can't escape. Each time you catch him, he manages to worsen Ouka's situation before slipping away. Catch him 2 times, and he finally leaves for good. Although this doesn't help Ouka, who shocks any student she interacts with while you remain in the area. Onto the sumo club. This one is fairly simple. The coach is intrigued by Ouka's exceptional strength and challenges her to a match. When he realizes he's about to lose, he tries to play dirty, but ultimately is still defeated. Afterwards, he expresses respect for Ouka's abilities. We then head to the soccer club, where the school's team has apparently been having trouble winning tournaments. Ouka joins for a practice match and almost single-handedly mops the floor with the opposing team in a shonen-esque display. Next is the nurse's facility, where we meet the eccentric Megumi. She'll be our vendor for medicine and free heals. Then we check behind the old school building, where Ouka runs into Yoko, an old acquaintance and famous junior detective. She is also here investigating the school and warns Ouka about the danger here before returning to her work. Next is the female bathroom facilities, but there doesn't seem to be much here at the moment. We then move to the bathhouse, but Ouka is too self-conscious to continue further, so there's nothing to do here yet either. Next is a quick stop at the gymnasium, where health checks are being held. Ouka undergoes a quick initial exam. She finds it a bit embarrassing, but luckily, everything seems fine with her. Down the school's back alley, we meet Kei, who is a fan of Ouka and trains to be just like her. The two spar a bit, and Kei vows to get strong enough to join Ouka's cause before leaving. This area also has an optional practice combat encounter, where you can adjust the difficulty of the fight, as well as Ouka's initial state. This is probably a good time to get into the combat's unique mechanics. It has all the normal rpgmaker systems, but on top of that, Ouka can be apprehended and downed. When apprehended, Ouka will continuously lose HP and energy, but there are QTEs on your turn that help work towards a recovery. If Ouka's HP is brought too low while apprehended, then she will enter a downed state, which is significantly harder to recover from. With all the school facilities visited, we now enter the old school building to deal with the delinquents, and there's quite a lot of them roaming the area. There's a few little side areas here and there, but eventually we end up at the back, where Porkbelly is waiting. It seems he has a plan to beat Ouka this time by enhancing his strength with an experimental drug. What story routes you are put on is influenced by whether Ouka wins or loses these pivotal encounters. Ouka puts up a good fight, but she is ultimately bested by Porkbelly's newfound strength. With Ouka captured, Porkbelly decides to try out the scroll's secret technique to gauge how effective he has become with it. Senka becomes worried that they haven't seen Ouka for a few days since she left for the old building. She wants to go check on things herself, but the principal insists that he needs her help here. Having been captured, you are given 2 chances for Ouka to escape by successfully stealthing out of the building and keeping encounters to a minimum. Ouka fails to escape both times, but luckily Yoko eventually comes to rescue her as Ouka begins to black out. Ouka wakes to learn that she was brought back by Megumi, but Yoko's status is currently unknown. Ouka's first defeat at the hands of the delinquents has become public knowledge at the school, and so the ne'er-do-wells have become a bit bolder. Now, interacting with students will have a chance for them to make demands of Ouka. An extra event occurs if this is done with all of them in that area. In the main building, a female student is being given a hard time by the hall monitor due to her perfume. He passes down the punishment of 30 lashes by bamboo sword, which Ouka decides to take in the girl's place. The hall monitor doesn't hold anything back, but Ouka takes it like a champ. Back at the principal's office, he takes more initiative to get to know Senka better. He places an aroma pot in the room with a special fragrance that helps the two relax. He tries to understand just where she draws the line for friendly tomfoolery between associates. At the gymnasium, there are rumors that Ouka has been doping due to her exceptional strength, so she has to submit material for analysis to clear her name. Next is the sumo club, where a rematch is in order. This time, the coach uses a new technique for cheating, which lets him prevail over Ouka. He then lectures her for ruining some of the club equipment during the match. The audacity of this man. At the bathhouse, Ouka is finally ready to join the others. She gets in the water and tries to act natural around the other students. Things seem to ultimately go well, as they all become more comfortable with her presence. Next, the soccer club asks Ouka for help to fill in as a cheerleader, as none of the other female students want any part in it. Her performance brings a lot of attention, and she even gets a spot in the school's news issue. In the back alley, it seems Kay is picking a fight with a group of delinquents. She tries to hold her own, but quickly realizes she's in over her head, as she is defeated and captured. Ouka follows them to a shack and proceeds to hold them off as Kay makes a run for it. Ouka ultimately loses, and the delinquents are extra frustrated since Kay ended up cleanly getting away. Behind the old school building, we run into Yoko's supervisor. He has been having trouble getting into contact with Yoko, so he came to the school to look for her. But he doesn't exactly blend in, so he asks for Ouka's help in tracking her down. Now we're back at the old school building for a rematch. There is a trigger near the entrance that lets you set up Ouka for an unconventional combat build. Along this story route, Ouka has been learning unconventional abilities that can be used when certain conditions are met. Ouka may start the game at max level, but each defeat at the hands of the delinquents brings her down a level. However, this also gives you access to these special skills which can help even the odds. Ouka makes her way to Porkbelly, who has since become even more powerful from his frequent use of the secret drug. Ouka tries her best, but is yet again defeated by him. Now that he's caught her again, Porkbelly tries out the Mark II version of his technique to check its potency. Ouka is no match for it. In captivity, the delinquents bring in troublemakers from other schools that Ouka had helped clean up in the past. Needless to say, they have quite a bone to pick with her, and are very eager for some payback. and the situation only became more intense as time went on. You are again given 2 chances for Ouka to successfully escape from the building. There is even an isolated bed that can be slept in to recover HP and MP, but it's watched over by a delinquent who will take advantage of the situation if used. Ouka is caught in both of her attempts at escape. Luckily, Yoko is also trying to escape the building, which causes enough of a commotion that Megumi can quietly slip in and rescue Ouka. Back at the nurse's office, and the delinquents have come to grill Megumi on suspicion of aiding and hiding Ouka. They heavily interrogate her, but she does not sell out Ouka. What a bro. Ouka finally awakes to discover what has happened and vows to make the delinquents pay for their actions. Ouka's second defeat has become public knowledge, and the school's atmosphere has further deteriorated towards delinquent rule. In the principal's office, he wants to get Senka's advice on a new female student uniform. He has her try it on to test its comfort and durability. Next, the soccer club, where Ouka once again cheerleads for the school team. Her popularity seems to be getting a bit out of hand, as she starts to become more of a draw than the actual game. If you found certain videotapes while in the old building, then you can hand them to Yoko's supervisor to view their content. They show the delinquents interrogating Yoko. They want to know who she's working for, but she doesn't budge on the issue. Yeah, it's kind of awkward afterwards, but now Ouka is more determined than ever to rescue her friend. In the back alley, there is a note addressed to Ouka saying the delinquents have taken Kei and to come to the old warehouse. Ouka heads there and must follow the delinquents' orders to ensure Kei's safety. But before things escalate too much, Kei frees herself and the two take on the delinquents together. Kei actually holds her own pretty well, but Ouka not so much. And so the two suffer a terrible defeat at the hands of these ruffians. Afterwards, the two are thrown aside, but before the delinquents leave, they decide to take Kei with them as their required offering to Pork Belly, from which Kei cannot be recovered. Any allies who have permanently been lost can have their unique apparel be picked up near where they were last seen. Ouka enters the old school building and confronts Pork Belly again. He has further honed his technique, and now using it on Ouka will have dire consequences for her. Despite being extra determined to win, Ouka is still brought down by Pork Belly's might. Ouka has no chance of escape from him, and with every use of the technique, her level is brought down by 1. A significant amount of her fighting power is sapped away as a result of this loss. In captivity, the delinquents make an example of Ouka in an attempt to crush the remaining support she has with the student body. You are again given 2 chances for her to escape, but this time it's practically impossible as you have little room to maneuver and a guard dog is placed near where you start. The delinquents stoop to new levels in their quest to sully Ouka's reputation, and as a result, most of the students' hope in her is lost. Eventually, Megumi finds an opening and successfully recovers Ouka. Back at the nurse's office, the delinquents come to interrogate Megumi again, but it's still a fruitless effort. That is, until Porkbelly comes in person to try his hand at it. Megumi is severely outclassed by him, and after a grueling ordeal, she is taken back to their hideout as a special offering, from which she cannot be recovered. Megumi is now permanently lost. We can pick up her apparel near her station. Ouka awakens, surprised to find that her wounds have not been treated by Megumi yet. Ouka was also hoping to ask her about how to avoid the lasting effects of Porkbelly's technique, but she's nowhere in the office, and so Ouka begins to fear for the worst. This is the final arc, and the school is now under near total delinquent rule. The delinquents have made a home for themselves in some school classrooms, making a distracting ruckus for neighboring classes. They have also completely taken over the female restroom and put their own unique spin on it. In the principal's office, Ouka is surprised to find that Senka is not at her station. Apparently, the principal wanted to test his current level of influence over her, so he had her help maintain the boys' bathroom. Next, the gymnasium. The teacher enlists Ouka's help in an attempt to get higher quality results from the boys' examinations. Back at the sauna, the boys have finally become completely comfortable with Ouka being there, and they now look to her for putting everyone at ease. Heading to the sumo club, Ouka has what she initially misinterprets as a sumo match, but it eventually becomes clear how her recent antics have changed this club's perception of her. Next, the soccer club. Ouka's cheerleading has become so popular that the game crowd is mainly there for her, and many go to extreme efforts to get a better view. In the courtyard, Shogo is losing his passion for pranks and is considering hanging it all up. He asks Ouka if she can look past his transgressions and help him dispose of all his equipment. However, Ouka ultimately decides that he must be punished, but her attempt at vengeance fails and ends up leading to her being stuck in the nearby sand pit. Shogo has a grand time with this turn of events. Before leaving, he paints Ouka as bullying him, which causes other passerby students to administer justice on Shogo's behalf. Entering the old school building for the final gauntlet, and the difficulty has now reached its peak. The roaming delinquents are stronger than ever, and Ouka is weaker than ever. What few levels Ouka had left coming into here are now gone, and she is now entering Porkbelly's lair at a measly level 1. Ouka confronts Porkbelly for the final encounter. She is shocked to learn that Megumi now has the same condition that she does and is completely under his control. When the fight begins, Porkbelly has a giant entourage with him, but he decides to dismiss them all and 1v1 Ouka. No items or gimmick stages. It doesn't matter what commands you choose, Ouka doesn't have the strength to defy Porkbelly any longer, and eventually throws herself at his mercy. Ouka admits total defeat and swears her complete loyalty to Porkbelly. She also confesses that she wants to be his woman, and the two share a tender scene together before Ouka takes on his family name. Sometime later, the delinquents completely control the school, and the entire student body must adhere to the new rules they've laid out. All of Ouka's allies have been brought to heel by Porkbelly and must unwaveringly serve his new regime. Ouka herself is shown to have ended up in a family way with Porkbelly. She still goes to other schools on occasion, but it's mostly to help expand her man's influence and collect some extra funds for him. Nobody recognizes her as the ferocious Captain Ouka, and that legend slowly fades into obscurity. Of course, this is only one of the endings, and there's quite a few of them, including one where Ouka romantically ends up with the principal and becomes his new personal assistant. There's also some where the delinquents are defeated, but Ouka and her allies become tools for the school's pursuit of greater renown. The exact criteria for getting certain endings is a bit convoluted, but I found a few posts that seem to have a somewhat accurate outline. Same thing for the side events, which are needed for some endings. This game is often compared pretty unfavorably to the more beloved first title. And while, yeah, the sequel is kinda lean in comparison, I still think it's a good game, as the dev is a master at these tags. The big sticking point of this series for a lot of people is the art style, which won't be to everyone's tastes, and I can understand that. You can find this second game on Steam, but sadly the first one still hasn't been ported yet. I hope they eventually get to that, but the dev is probably more interested in porting newer works. There's still some alternate story route content and optional scenes that I didn't have time to go over, so feel free to play the game yourself if you're interested. As always, remember to apply the publisher's patch to the Steam or GOG version before playing. Thanks for watching, and if you want the unaltered version of this video, then check the description.